private chat and a comment. So, okay, we are
I'll look at
live
the
now.
comment. Sure. So maybe even the questions, Karthik, you could ask me. So if you are reading the questions and you feel there's something I should answer, why don't you read it out to me? It'll be better that way.
Sure, I
Okay.
will. Okay, then we are live now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll begin in a minute or so. So, guys, if
Sure.
you're here and if you can see us, just say a hi and drop your comments. We have Rohas here today. Hi, guys, hi. We'll begin in a minute or so. Just drop a hi. Yeah, just say whether we can see us and hear us. William Rohas, I guess even you can share it across your community. The link I've shared. You can get started. Hey, Sanket, hi. So today we have Rohas. We'll be talking about Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain for a few minutes. Okay, then let's.
Should we start?
Yeah, we'll start. So,
Okay.
hey guys, today we have Rohas Nagpal here. I'm Karthik. I'm the host for this session, and we are going to uncover two chains today: Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. Rohas, he's the chief blockchain architect at Brapta's project and also Hi-Fi Blockchain, and he's been into the blockchain space since 2015, and he has immense knowledge in space. He has worked with very many projects like BankFi, etc., and he has also assisted the government in this. So, Rohas, yeah, we
Hi,
can get started.
hi guys.
Yeah,
Let's keep this interactive. So whenever you have questions, just put them in the comments, and Karthik will read them out, and I'll answer those questions. So let's begin with a very simple concept. We keep hearing the word blockchain, but what does it really mean? So that's the reason I want you to have Karthik. I think you have to mute.
yeah, we can. Yeah, go
Yeah,
with
there's
start.
a lot of background noise otherwise. Yeah. So I want you guys to look at this image here. And as you can see right in the middle, it says in this red layer, it says addresses, ledger, and data. So when we use the term blockchain, it's ultimately a computer network. Now, that red thing which you see is the core of this network. That's what the whole thing runs around. So that is where addresses are stored. Now, an address is something which is very fundamental to a blockchain. Without an address, you can do nothing. An address is how a blockchain recognizes who you are. So if it was the banking world, you are recognized based on your account number. In the mobile world, you are identified based on your mobile number. In the blockchain world, you are identified using your address. So when you want to know how many tokens you have, you basically are going to look into that address and see what it says. How many tokens are currently controlled by that address? And then you would need a private key to sign transactions and move that token out of that address. So address is a very core part. The second core thing there is the ledger. That means all the transactions that are happening on that blockchain, they are stored on a shared ledger, which means anybody who is connected to the blockchain can see all transactions. Of course, that is true, I would say, for maybe 99% of the blockchains, but we do have a concept called privacy chains. Classic example would be Monero. There you are not able to see everything in full detail because those are actually very anonymous in nature, whereas most other blockchains are what we call pseudo anonymous. So 99% of the world's blockchains are pseudo anonymous. You will be able to see the shared ledger, and you will be able to see in real time what transactions are actually happening, which address is sending and receiving what tokens from which other address. And then we could have some metadata. So that is the core part of the blockchain. And then all these things that you see around here, these are the nodes. So the more the nodes that a blockchain has, logically the more secure it gets. Because if you were to now tamper with the blockchain or bring it down, let's say you were launching a distributed denial of service attack, you would have to bring down every single node. If even one node is up, the blockchain is still up and running. Now, very recently, Solana, I think the entire network went down for 18 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Now, that's a very scary thing, which means either they have a very limited number of nodes, or there was some major issue that the entire blockchain suddenly went down, because that is usually something that never happens. So that is where the nodes fit in. And then now this node could be run by an individual, it could be run by an entity. So let's say a bank is running a node. So then the bank, this is their internal network, and they would connect from this internal network to the blockchain node through the API layer. So I don't know if you guys are from a programming background, but later I'll briefly explain what APIs also look like. So that is how networks, which could belong to corporates, crypto exchanges, banks, anybody, would connect to the nodes, which in turn are connected, or rather they are holding the data on behalf of that entire blockchain. And then you may have heard about this term called a blockchain explorer. I'm going to show you what that looks like soon. But that is where anybody can just come and without logging in on a user interface, see all these transactions, all the blocks, all the data is clearly visible. So that's kind of the overview of what a blockchain ecosystem would look like. Are there any questions? Please feel free to put your questions here. Raghav can read them out. Otherwise, I'll go to the next step.
Yeah. So far, we don't have any questions. You can continue.
Okay. Now, let's go to the next one. Now, when it comes to blockchains, there are a lot of them out there, and most of these are open source. So, what do we mean by that? We mean that the software framework is available open source to the world. We can now download this framework and run our own private instance if we want. So, suppose I'm a big fan of Ethereum, I can actually download the entire Ethereum software, run it on my own nodes, and set up a private version of Ethereum, right? So most blockchains support this. They are all open source. Now, as a blockchain architect and developer over the last several years, these are the 16 blockchains that I have worked on. So I'll just give you a brief overview and what is different, and then why specifically I'm going to talk about Binance and Ethereum. So one of my favorites is Algorand. What I like about Algorand is that you can actually quarantine assets. So that means if someone is trying to carry out a fraud, assets can be locked, kind of like a bank account where you can freeze bank balances, if a court gives an order. So similarly here in Algorand, we can do a lot of such features. And I have taken some of these features into my own project. So that's the reason I like Algorand. Then we have Avalanche. What I like about it is it's really, really fast. So when we talk about speeds of a blockchain, there are actually two things to look at. One is how many transactions per second does the blockchain handle? That's TPS. And the second is what is the transactional finality, which means after how much time can we say that our transaction will not get reversed? And that's a major issue in blockchains, which many people are not aware of, that your transaction can actually get rejected in the future. So in Bitcoin, we wait for 60 minutes because an average Bitcoin block takes about 10 minutes. We wait for 6 blocks, and then we can say, okay, the transaction in the first one now will not get rejected, and then we go on. So when we look at it from both those points of view, Avalanche is one of the fastest blockchains. It gives, I think, 4,500 transactions per second, and finality is in a few seconds. And you can use Avalanche to create your own blockchains, all of which will run on the Avalanche consensus mechanism as well as the token there will be AVAX. That will become the base token. Now, after this session, Karthik will share a few links with you for 3 of my videos. I want you to go through them because in that I've gone into the basics of what is proof of work and how it works. So that will really help you to take your knowledge to the next level. And if you have any questions, please keep posting them. Yeah. Now let me just go back to that. Yeah. So then we have Binance. So that's the one I'm going to talk about in more detail. So Ethereum, which is here, is the world's first, we could say, smart contract based blockchain. Because when blockchain started, it started with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a very basic kind of a blockchain. It has only one single token, which is BTC. And the Bitcoin blockchain's job is only to handle the BTC transactions. So you can create accounts, you can send BTC from here to there, all that, and that's all that the Bitcoin blockchain is supposed to do. Ethereum, on the other hand, said there is a lot more that can be done with blockchains other than running one token. So Ethereum is like a second generation, you could say, where anybody can go and create their own tokens. So hundreds of thousands of tokens run on Ethereum. They could be stable coins, utility coins, governance coins, you name it, you can run. So Ethereum allows you to create smart contracts, which I'm going to show you in some time what a smart contract looks like. And that can be deployed, and lots of really fancy things can be done. So that was the first. Now, Binance is actually just a fork of Ethereum. So we're going to go into detail in that. But if I was to choose my two favorites, I'd say number one today is Binance, and number two would be Ethereum. Then we have Cardano, which honestly speaking started off with a lot of promise, but I don't think it's really picking up much in terms of traction. Cello is a very interesting one. So if you are looking at a blockchain which is mobile first, then Cello is the ideal one. So that where people's mobile numbers become like their addresses, and Cello is a completely mobile first blockchain. So that's the unique part about it. Other than that, these are pretty okay. Then Polkadot is another interesting one that I worked on. So in Polkadot, you have parallel blockchains called parachains, and for each use case, you spin up a new one, but they are being auctioned for a huge amount of money. And at the base is something called a relay chain. That's where the transactions, finality, consensus, all that happens, and then there are parallel chains running on it. So that's another feature that I've taken into my own project. Then I'm sure all of you have heard about Polygon. So Polygon actually started off as a way to solve some of the problems of Ethereum. So where Ethereum is slow, transactions cost a lot of money, Polygon gives you a lot of scalability features, which make it easier and cheaper and faster to use Ethereum. But now they also have their own blockchain. It's doing pretty well. It's an Indian origin project. Then we have Solana, which till some time ago was one of my favorite blockchains. But over the last few months, there have been four major problems or hacks which have happened or exploits. And because of that, currently I'm recommending people to stay away from Solana. Stacks is a very interesting one where they are trying to bring smart contracts to Bitcoin. So, as I told you, Bitcoin is the first generation one. Natively, it doesn't support all these features. So, Stacks kind of is a layer two you could consider. So, it's a blockchain connecting to Bitcoin and trying to bring a lot of interesting features to Bitcoin. So, another example would be something called the Lightning Network. That's also trying to improve and add features to Bitcoin. The rest of these, yeah, again, Terra is a good project, pretty fast. But again, I'm not seeing too much of traction. So if you guys are looking at getting into blockchains, and I have a couple, let me give you some advice to begin with. First of all, I would recommend don't start off as a blockchain developer. Try to do blockchain architect. So what happens in that is when a client comes to you with a problem saying this is the use case we have, what do we do? A blockchain architect is the guy who needs to know all the different important blockchains that are there and then figure out which blockchain would solve the use case of the client, because the development part is not so complex, but understanding different blockchains and figuring out the best way of using them is where I think all of you should look at building a career if you're interested in that. Any questions? All clear?
So, guys, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. We'll be taking questions now. So,
Then
nothing, I guess we're good to go. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So now let me just scroll down a little bit and let's go to Binance Smart Chain. So Binance Smart Chain, the consensus mechanism is proof of staked authority. So what does consensus mean? Based on what are the transactions in a blockchain going to be validated? So later when you have a look at the video on blockchain basics, we've discussed proof of work in detail because that's the world's first and still the most popular consensus mechanism. Bitcoin runs on it, Ethereum runs on it. Now, Ethereum is planning to move away from that and go towards something called proof of stake, but that'll happen God knows when it'll happen. It's supposed to be happening anytime this year. Binance, on the other hand, uses something called proof of stake authority. Now, one thing to remember about it is Binance actually runs two blockchains. Because as you know, Binance started off as a crypto exchange. So the Binance chain, which was their first blockchain, was optimized for quick, decentralized transactions, but did not have smart contract capability. Later, they forked Ethereum. Forking is a very common concept where you take an existing blockchain and then you just fork it and you start running your own blockchain out of it. So they forked Ethereum and then they created their second blockchain, which is called Binance Smart Chain, and which gives you all the smart contract capability. And now Binance has also announced that they're going to come out with their third blockchain, but no details are yet available to us. And the native token across both the Binance chains as well as on the Binance ecosystem, which includes the crypto exchange they have. So BNB is the same token across everywhere. Of course, there is a major problem with Binance and the fact that it is not very decentralized. So while their testnet has 11 validators, their mainnet has 21 validators, which is logically a very small number, but unfortunately that's the way it is. And new validators are selected every 24 hours, and they've got to stake at least 10,000 BNB, which is a huge amount of money, which is what makes Binance not so decentralized, and that's one of the negative points of Binance. Later, of course, you can go through this article. Now, let me just go to Ethereum a little bit. Now, when it comes to Ethereum, like I said, the proof of work is what is used. Native token is ETH. And one thing you need to remember, Ethereum, the word Ethereum actually stands for a protocol. So, like when you're browsing the internet, you always notice on top it will be HTTP or HTTPS. So that's hypertext transfer protocol. Or when you send emails, we are talking about SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, POP, post office protocol. So a protocol is a set of rules and regulations on which technologies run. So Ethereum is actually the name of a protocol. There are multiple blockchains in the world which run on it. The one that we usually use the word Ethereum for is actually called the mainnet. So that's where the actual live real world transactions happen. And then Ethereum has a whole bunch of uh, test nets also, which are not interoperable with each other. They are all running parallelly. Now, what is so special about Ethereum is the fact that they brought in this concept of smart contracts onto the blockchain. You don't have to use a blockchain for smart contracts, but blockchains add a lot of value to the smart contract ecosystem. And this is the most important part which I want you to understand. The term EVM, which is called the Ethereum virtual machine, that is the environment in which all these Ethereum accounts and smart contracts live. So these smart contracts are programs that are going to run on their own when certain conditions are met. And they are actually all existing in this place called the EVM. And the purpose of the Ethereum protocol is to keep that running. So that's the most critical part of it. Any questions? Is it all clear? Karthik, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay. Now, when we create tokens on top of Ethereum, there are various standards that we can follow. So one is we have ERC20, which is for fungible. Fungible means all tokens are identical to each other. Then we use the word fungible. Non-fungible means each token is different. So NFTs, say an NFT represents a particular painting, so it's unique. Another NFT represents another painting, again it's unique. So we use different standards. So ERC20 for fungible, 721 for non-fungible, and then there are a few other standards that are slowly becoming popular. The biggest problem with Ethereum is something called the gas fee. So whenever you are running these contracts, you need to pay for it, and the cost of that has really gone up, which is why Binance Smart Chain and Polygon have started picking up because people are finding Ethereum extremely expensive. Now let's have a look at what do we mean by these smart contracts and how do they work. Now that's one of the reasons I recommend too many people don't get into development, because things are getting automated. Like right now, what I'm showing you on your screen is a platform called Open Zeppelin. And what they've done is they've told the developers that instead of trying to develop your own smart contracts from the ground up, why don't you use our templates? So they've got a brilliant set of templates and a very simple to use wizard. So we can enter the name of a, so right now I'm showing you how a token is actually created in reality. So I could simply go to this site without needing a username password. I can enter the name of my token, which in this case is my older daughter's name, and I can put the symbol, which again is her name, and then I choose the pre-minting. So blockchains again are of two types. One where you can pre-mint, which is where you create tokens on Ethereum. On day one, you can create as many tokens as you want. And then there are blockchains like Bitcoin where you cannot do that. Every few minutes or every block, certain new tokens are created. So it's a different concept. But here we are only going to be doing all this kind of work on a smart contract blockchain. So we can choose a pre-mint number. So I've chosen 1 million. You can put whatever number you want. It doesn't cost you anything based on that. Now comes the most important part. What are the features that we want our token to have? So let me first uncheck all of these. Right? Okay. So now you can see when I uncheck all of this, then it shows me only a very basic code. So here we can see that it is importing a file, Solidity file. And then it's not really been told anything much other than the name and the symbol which you can see here. And then you can see the 1 million that I spoke about. And then it is showing me the number of decimal points. Now that if you want to change, you will have to actually download this contract and change it. Everything else is controlled from the wizard. So now when I click on mineable, so you see now it has added a line of code. So what do we mean by this term? Sorry, mintable. So what do we mean by this term? That certain accounts who have the privilege can create more tokens in the future. If this is not checked, then you cannot create. Then burnable. So do you want to allow people to burn their tokens? Now you'll wonder why should people burn tokens? But that's a very common practice. So when you look at Binance, it started with 200 million tokens. And what they said was every quarter, 3 months, we would keep burning tokens till we are finally left with only 100 million. And because of that strategy, the price of Binance coin, BNB, is very high. Because when you burn tokens, you're reducing the supply, making scarcity, and if the demand is there, the token price goes up. So, do you want your token to have that feature? Then you would click this. So, we want it to be mintable, we want it to be burnable. Suppose there's a major exploit or hack. Do we want to be able to pause the token? Then we say pause it. So, like this, we can do governance systems through voting. Uh, Flash mint mining is another very interesting concept. So, when in today's world, when you take a loan from the bank, right? What's the minimum period of a loan? Could be days, weeks, months, years. But on the blockchain, you can take a loan for a few seconds and you will return the money in the same block. So, a block has, say, in Bitcoin 10 minutes and in others, a few minutes is there. You are taking a loan and repaying it within the same block. And that is a concept of flash minting. It's a much more complex thing. So I'll just give you a brief overview. So if we want to enable that, we will tick it. Now, as we ticked each of these, more and more lines of code got added here. So after we finish all this, we can now, you see this button, open in Remix. So Remix is an IDE, integrated development environment, that is going to compile this contract and push it to the blockchain and make it live. So when I click on open in Remix, then it would open up in this kind of an environment here. So the contract is here. Now I told you that we could change the decimal places. So if we want, then we'll have to download and change it here, or we can just let it go with the default. Then we choose our environment, which is injected Web3. Now, a very important thing, which account is using this or creating this token? Because there is going to be a certain amount of fees that has to be paid when we create a token. So how do we pay this fees? Now for that, we use something called a wallet. So what I'm showing you right now is something called the MetaMask. So what does a wallet do? A wallet generates addresses for you. So let me give you a very simple example of a wallet. Okay. So here I'm going to show you something called a paper wallet, which is the most secure in the world because no one can hack it because it's not on a technology platform, it's on a piece of paper. Now, when I click on the word Ethereum here, it generates these three alphanumeric code looking things. That is the wallet. It has an address. Anybody in the world who has your address can send you tokens to this address. If they send it to the wrong address, the tokens are gone. And along with your address, you have a very important thing called a private key. If somebody gets your private key, they can take away all your tokens. So the private key is what you use to digitally sign your transactions and move tokens out of your address. So which is why when you hold your crypto in a crypto exchange, it is not considered safe in the long run because you don't have a private key. The crypto is actually held by the exchange, and tomorrow if they've run away, which happens, it's happened multiple times in the last few years, all your crypto is gone because you don't have your private key. Which is why it is always better that if you have a large amount of crypto, you would move it onto your own address, your own non-custodial wallet, which means only you have custody of your private key. So having said that, if we go back here to MetaMask, so MetaMask allows me to create multiple addresses. And that address is what I have now connected with. Because when I want to run this smart contract, it asks me to connect to my own wallet. Because then only it will be able to take that transaction fee. So as we can see here in this wallet, there is about, so it says 0.95 ETH. So from this now, it is going to deduct some amount of money, and then it is going to create my token. So that's what the address here is. And then I click on the deploy, and if everything goes smoothly, it gets created. So of course I've just done it a few minutes ago because I wasn't sure if my net would back up at the last minute. So the moment I did that, I could then go to the blockchain explorer, which I mentioned earlier to you, for Binance Smart Chain, and I can see that a new token has been created. And as you can see here, the name of the token is Sanya, and the symbol is SANY. So you could also go right now to this Binance Explorer. Let me put that in the, how do I put it in the chat? Okay, I'm not able to figure out. Okay. Are you guys able to see that link? Karthik, is that link which I just sent on the chat visible to everyone?
Yeah, I'll just share the link. Just give me a moment.
Sure. So if you guys click on it right now, you should also be able to see this new token that we have created. So as you can see, the method of creating a token is not difficult at all. It's extremely simple. And because of features like Zeppelin and all available to us, you don't have to program from the ground up. It becomes reasonably easy for anyone to create tokens. Of course, if the use case is more complex, then you may not use it like this. You may actually need to do a lot of development from the ground up. And in that case, we always recommend that you should go and get it audited by a security consultant so that they can make sure there are not any errors in your smart contract. Because if there is an error, that's how exploits actually take place. And millions of dollars could be siphoned off using that. All clear? Any questions? Karthik, is it all clear? Are you able to hear me? Any questions?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's no questions. You can continue.
Okay, fine. Now, when we look at MetaMask, it's just one of the many wallets that you could use. There is a whole bunch of wallets that are available. And primary job of the wallet is to generate these addresses and keys for you and to keep them. And then naturally, whatever tokens and all that you are holding, it will show you the latest balances, and it will also allow you to send it. So if I go and I want to send it, then I need your address. I paste it here, and then I can send it to you. It's fairly simple. I mean, and another very interesting feature is MetaMask supports multiple blockchains because each blockchain is unique. So what happens on the Bitcoin blockchain doesn't automatically happen on Ethereum. So which is why you have two kinds of wallets. One which should be supporting only one platform, and then you have wallets which support multiple. So as you can see here, in MetaMask, I can choose right now what do I want to transact with: the Ethereum mainnet, the Binance testnet, the Binance mainnet. Then these are the Ethereum test networks. I can use the Matic network if I want. All that is available in one single wallet. And naturally, it will show me different balances in each of them. So I can choose and do my work on multiple blockchains. Any questions?
No.
Okay. All clear? Karthik, is it
Yeah,
all clear?
yeah. In chats we people are saying all clear. So yeah, you can
Okay,
continue.
great, great. So we've seen, let me just quickly give you a review of what we've done so far. So first step, we saw how to create the smart contract for a new token. We understood these are different options that we can choose. Then we brought that smart contract into the integrated development environment. We deployed it, and then we used our MetaMask wallet to pay the transaction fee. Based on that, we created a new token, which is now visible to the whole world on the blockchain explorer here. And then we understood where MetaMask fits into the whole picture. Now, there's another interesting thing that I'd like to talk to you about, and that is where how can we send emails over the Ethereum network? So, people can actually communicate with each other also over the Ethereum network, and that is a very interesting concept which I want to talk to you about. So, you may have heard about something called the Poly network hack. Now, that took place last year, and that is considered the world's number one biggest attack on the blockchain so far. Of course, it wasn't the blockchain per se which was hacked, it was a particular project which was hacked into. But what the hacker did was he actually communicated with the team running the Poly network through the Ethereum blockchain, where he passed a transaction, okay, which had a value of 0 Ether, but he paid a transaction fee to send this message. So by default, the message would look like this. And then if you look at it in terms of UTF-8, it will say what the message in plain language is. So what he said was, oops, what if I make a new token and let the DAO decide before where the tokens go? So what he had done is he stole a huge amount of token from them, and then he posted this message that what if I take all these tokens, make a new one out of it, and let people decide what I should do with it. Of course, after that, he returned all the tokens to the project. But the interesting thing was you can use the Ethereum blockchain to communicate. So nowadays, a lot of people send love letters on blockchains because once you put it here, it's going to be there forever, but there is a cost to it, and you have paid that cost, and because of that payment your message has now gone onto the Ethereum blockchain, and it will be there as long as the Ethereum blockchain runs. Your message will be visible to the world. So a lot of people do this for their love letters and so many other things. People have done, you can do the same thing on the Bitcoin network also. So that's something, and this is like the Poly network, the one that was hacked. So this guy is called the Poly network exploiter, and he's the one who did this whole thing. Then there's another interesting feature. How do we actually send emails, right? Right. So there's a very interesting service called ETH Mail. So now what it does is when I log in, right, it connects to my MetaMask wallet, and my MetaMask pops up and says, do I want to sign this transaction? So it will ask me to log in. Now, one thing you've got to remember in the blockchain world is we don't usually use username passwords. We use wallets to digitally sign transactions. So consider it like, I don't know if you guys have heard about digital signatures, but they are like very popular in the real world also. So for example, income tax returns, when you file online, you digitally sign them. So when we log into sites, okay, in the Web 3.0 world, so what we do is instead of having to remember username passwords, we have a wallet with us, and whenever we want to connect, the wallet pops up. We need to enter our password, and then the wallet has our private key. It will digitally sign a transaction and send it to someone. And if that transaction is valid, the signature is valid, we are logged in. So in the real world or in the non-blockchain world, your password is actually stored with someone else, right? It is the, so whichever, say if it's a bank or it's an e-commerce site, they have stored your password in their database. So that is why sometimes that can get stolen. But in the blockchain world, nobody is storing your password anywhere because nobody has your password. Every time you want to make a transaction, you digitally sign and they only verify your transaction. And to verify, nobody needs your private key or your password. So that is what makes blockchain based authentication or digital signature based authentication much better than the traditional approach. So here it says login through this. So I click on Ethereum wallet. So now it says choose which one I want. So I choose MetaMask. It shows me the one I'm currently, which is open. I hope you guys are able to see the MetaMask wallet open up in a separate tab. Is it visible to all of you? Karthik, is that part visible? It should say signature request.
Uh, we are not able to see the MetaMask.
Okay, because that's open in a new tab.
It's a privacy feature, I believe, MetaMask.
Okay, let me do one thing. No, but it's very interesting if you guys can see it. Give me a second. Let me share my entire screen. Now, are you guys able to see a pop-up which says signature request?
Yeah.
Awesome. So what has happened is I have told this ETH mail website that I want to log in. So now ETH through the browser has communicated to my wallet saying that do you want to log in, right? And that is why a signature request has popped up. And if I say sign, then it will digitally sign this request and send it to the site. And if it matches, it will log me in. So when I say sign, so it's a little slow. Yeah. Very soon you'll be able to see the thing open up. Yeah. Okay. So now all the people in the world who have ever sent me an email on my Ethereum address, all those emails will open up here. Right? And then you can just click on any one of them and you can see that you can use people's Ethereum addresses as the part before the @ sign and the part behind that. So this is how your email ID will look like. So this is that Ethereum address at ethmail.com, and then we can immediately send and receive emails to each other. So that is how you can communicate anonymously. Like you don't need to know the person, right? So if we go back to the that guy, the Poly network hacker,
We can
so we can
switch
see
back to
his.
the we can switch back to the window.
Oh yeah, yeah. Give me a second. Okay, is the window visible?
Yeah, it is.
You can see this Poly network exploiter here.
It's visible.
Yeah. So now I can copy this address and send this guy an email over ETH mail without even knowing who he is. So that guy can maintain his complete anonymity, but I can actually send out emails and we can have a communication without even knowing who we are. Any questions on this so far?
So we have one question. It says sending mail using ETH also requires gas fee.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because to be very honest, you're not actually using the Ethereum network. What this site is doing is authenticating you based upon your signature which you have created. So it knows this is your address. But the emails are actually being sent by the site and not by the Ethereum network. Hence, the gas fee is zero. But this message which he sent, this required gas fee because it is actually on the Ethereum blockchain. But the emails we are exchanging, they are not on the blockchain. So there the transaction fee is zero. So there are two different ways of communicating. One with the payment and one where you don't need to make any payment. Any other questions?
No.
No. Uh, so we've kind of seen the basics. Yeah, we've seen this. Okay. Then we've discussed the wallet in detail. So like I said, we can choose different blockchains here. And we may have assets on some blockchains. Like when I look at BSC testnet, it shows me this Sanya asset. But when I go to Ethereum mainnet, it is not going to show that to me, because that particular token does not exist on the Ethereum mainnet. That's one option. Or second, I don't have a quantity of that token on the Ethereum mainnet. So I can have different tokens on different different blockchains. And MetaMask makes it easier for me to keep track of all of them. So you could use even another one which is called as the Trust Wallet. So it's a mobile app, and that will support I think 53 blockchains if I'm not mistaken. So you have tons and tons of options available in wallets. So you can choose whichever wallet makes sense for the tokens that you are holding. And it is always recommended, don't leave your tokens on a crypto exchange. If it's a lot of money or if it's for the long term, move them into your own personal address where you have the private key. So what you could do is you could go to your MetaMask and you could click here. Now it has copied this address, right? Now you could send that to somebody else or go into your crypto account in the exchange, enter this as the address and transfer the crypto from the exchange account to your personal MetaMask account. Now those tokens will only be visible to you in MetaMask. On the exchange, it will show a zero balance. But a very important point to remember is if you end up deleting your MetaMask wallet, your tokens will be gone forever unless you have noted down your secret key. So there's a key phrase. There are some 12 odd words, random words. You need to write them down. So if in the future you lose your computer, your browser gets destroyed, you delete it by accident, you can re-download MetaMask, type in those 12 words in the exact order, and it will recreate your wallet completely, and your tokens will be visible to you again. That is the only way. If you don't do that, your crypto is gone. And I made a lot of that mistake when I initially mined Bitcoin many years ago. So I had a bunch of Bitcoins lying on my system. I migrated my laptop, and at that time, Bitcoin was virtually worthless. It didn't really have any value. So I just deleted it. Now, even though I can see my address on the Bitcoin blockchain and I can see a balance there, I cannot access those Bitcoins because I deleted my private key. There is no way on earth for me to reconstruct it. So those Bitcoins are now gone forever. And I'm not the only idiot in the world who made that mistake. A lot of other people did that. But unfortunately, there's no way, nothing we can do about it. So that's the very important thing you need to remember. When you're using a crypto exchange, it doesn't matter because the crypto exchange has the keys. They give you a username, password, they give you OTP, so they can always help you. But when you move it into your own wallet, the advantage is it's under your control. The disadvantage is you could end up losing all your cryptos. Any questions?
No, we don't have any.
Yeah, any questions?
No, no questions.
This is the first session of mine where I've not had questions, so I'm quite surprised. Okay, so I guess you guys are really smart and you picked up everything in the first shot. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is that when we talk about blockchains, the real revenue model is in the DeFi world, that is decentralized finance. So you could use a website like DeFi Llama, which I'm on right now, and check out which are the blockchains having the maximum TVL or total value locked. So on a public blockchain, we could be running different tokens. Now those tokens could be used for staking, lending, and so many other things. So what is the total quantum of tokens on a particular blockchain is usually what decides how important that blockchain is or isn't. So when we look at Ethereum, we can see that the TVL is about $136 billion, which is a good amount of money. But when we look at the next one, Terra, it's only 14. So look at the difference. The number one blockchain, Ethereum, has a TVL of almost 10 times the second one, which shows us why Ethereum continues to be such an important blockchain, even though it's expensive. But most of the world still prefers to use it. And other than that, these are the other ones that we can see. So Terra, Binance Smart Chain, the one we've discussed right now, Avalanche, Phantom, Solana, Polygon, Tron. So these are some of the most important ones. Solana, I believe, over a period of time now will start to lose a lot of value because of the repeated hacks that are happening on it. So obviously there are some major issues that need to be resolved. But this list anyway keeps changing every few minutes. You have to keep visiting it and you'll figure out slowly where is it that people are actually doing business on. So again, if you guys are looking at getting into blockchain, then there is no doubt Ethereum has to be one of the first blockchains that you need to become comfortable with. So if you go to the Ethereum website, they've got a bunch of very good resources available, and you don't really need to do a course or anything per se, but you've got a lot of tutorials available here. So when you go to the developers home, so you will see a lot of great resources and you will be able to pick this up very easily on your own. And like I said, you can use Zeppelin. So that will give you an idea about how these contracts are actually created. And I would strongly recommend if you are very new to blockchain, then I would say start off with Ethereum. And then the second one that you could go on to is Binance Smart Chain. And after that, you can choose it based on, let's say, the DeFi blockchains. Then there are some blockchains that are more popular for certain kinds of use cases. So for example, you guys may have heard about things like Web 3.0. So let me just give you a brief example of that. So I track certain sectors. So one sector is gaming and metaverse. So in the world of gaming and metaverse, then you will see these are the most important chains that are there. So Axie Infinity is a play to earn game. So is the sandbox where you can even buy virtual land. So now these some of these are independent blockchains, Some of them are platforms which use ERC20 tokens in them. So, for example, Axie Infinity actually has multiple tokens inside it, right? So, for example, an Axie is a creature which you are going to use to battle in this game called Axie Infinity, right? So, each of these creatures are NFTs, which you can buy on a marketplace or you can sell on a marketplace. Then they have other tokens. So, for example, they even have a token called Simple Love Potion (SLP), and then they have another token called AXS. That's the core token. So that is a fungible token which you can use to buy axes which are non-fungible tokens. So why I'm trying to go a little deeper into that is, depending upon the use case that you're building, you may have to take such an approach. Like if you are working for a gaming company, because gaming and metaverse is now a very big thing, right? You know, even Facebook has changed its name to become Meta. So a lot of use cases may come to you guys. So at that time, you may decide to take an approach like Axiom, where each of the individual creatures or guns or other things are NFTs. Then there is one main token which is used to buy and sell these. Then in Web 3.0, that's where things become very different. And here you have different blockchains which are doing different things. So while basic attention token is trying to solve the problem of middleman in advertising, a Filecoin is kind of like the Airbnb for data storage. So today when you use Airbnb, you can rent out one room in your house, right, for a day. Similarly, if you have extra storage space, you can rent it out using Filecoin for a short period of time. So like this, according to me, these are the top 10 important projects in Web 3.0, and they are all very different. For example, Theta is for video streaming, but it has two tokens. One is Theta and one is called T Fuel or Theta Fuel. So these are the different kinds of approaches that we take in the blockchain world. Sometimes you have multiple tokens, sometimes you decide to go with an independent blockchain of your own, sometimes you choose to run your project on someone else's blockchain. So these are all the kind of things that you learn only when you explore multiple blockchains. So that's kind of more or less what I had in mind today for the session. So now if you guys have questions, we can take them.
So thanks, Rohas. Thanks for the session, and I'm sure people would have had a great understanding of Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain, and also, as you mentioned, it's always a good point to get started in blockchain with Ethereum. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them now, or yeah, we'll be closing the session. No questions then? Okay then. Thanks for
Okay,
joining us, guys.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, bye.